The Leominster City Council meeting is brought to you by the generous support of the Service Oil Company, 345R Lancaster Street, Leominster, 978-466-1922.
So this is due to two firefighters are out injured, duty-related injuries, 3 firefighters, vacancies related to retirements. You went to the retirement party, so you know what I'm speaking to. 1 firefighter's using sick leave bank, but still we have to compensate for that, so we still have to pay, even though they have paid, you know, they donate days into the sick bank, we still have to compensate them. We have 4 new members of the fire department, and they're in training, and as you know, first they'll come here and do some training, and then as soon as we have openings at the fire academy, they'll be heading out that way. And then increased vacation backfill needed at this time. So January, February, March, April, not the months that we see across the city where people want to use a whole lot of vacation time. It's not hunting season. It's kind of past the whole ski season and snowmobile season and family time at Disney World. So then there's a little bit of lapse, and then people are going to start using their vacation time. And that's what's causing that.
All right, so any members of the Finance Committee have any questions for the mayor on that?
I have to abstain, so.
Okay. Then I'll open it up to the council as a whole. Any council member have a question before we move on to C-59? All right. And Pauline, you have any issues with this?
I do not.
So there'd be a unanimous recommendation of the 2 members of the committee on this one. C-59, relative to the appropriation of $5,000 to the city clerk wages.
Can we go to 64? I have it listed as 64, the next, but I can go to, it's just I'll lose my spot here. What's
No,
the next one?
that's fine. C-64, relative to the appropriation of $572,000 to the general fund accounts as listed, saying to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. We have fire capital outlay expenses of $163,000.
Yes.
Highway capital expenses of $232,000, municipal building capital outlay expenses of $120,000, emergency management capital outlay expenses of $35,000, and recreation department capital outlay expenses of $22,000.
So $80,000 is for the phase 1, and remember, last year we ended up taking money, borrowing from stabilization, and put it back with free cash so we could balance the school budget. So I think at the time, I let everybody know in anticipation of that, we were gonna end up not being able to fund all of the capital improvements that we had planned for this particular year. So, but we did have just under shy of $1 million to put towards capital improvements. Asked all the department heads to sort of reprioritize that list. So $80,000 is for phase 1, and what we'll do with the fire, hi John. What we'll do with the fire department is similar to what we did in emergency management, where we made improvements. We didn't do it all at once. We sort of did it sort of a little bit at a time. Phase 1, so if you look from the rear of the property, you know, come out the back door at Allen's, it doesn't look very attractive. The front, they've done a great job, but little by little, there are sort of antennas hanging in the back and air conditioning units, and then downstairs there's actually a service ramp that you can actually get underneath, but every time it rains, that takes on water. So phase one of the project is to replace the back deck and the rear entrance of the fire headquarters. And the current deck has serious structural deterioration, has become a safety issue. And the chief can explain, they want to sort of do over that whole, you want to explain that part? I think that'd be helpful.
You want me to come in?
I don't think
Sure,
it's,
why
oh, it is, okay, I didn't know.
Evening. Yeah, the rear deck that the mayor explained is, the underneath, is a drive-in. So it's suspended by, steel decking and I-beams. The I-beams are actually completely rotted through in 3 spots, and the steel decking is starting to give way. I have major safety concerns. Been working with the mayor to try to find a different place to put our storage other than the basement, and due to financial difficulties, we don't have that yet, but I need to do something on the deck. So phase one is to start the demolition of the deck, and maybe put up temporary stairs, and then phase two and phase three would be to build a new structure over there, block in the basement, and that would solve the water problem. In the basement, when they put in the access there and used it for storage, they didn't have anything down there. Now we have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of radio equipment and computer equipment. So it's gonna, twofold. Is one, it's gonna protect that equipment, and then repair the deck.
And then sort of, again, as we refine the 2018, 2019 capital improvements, what you'll see show up soon will be another building, I think more of an accessory building down at Engine 2 on Central Street towards the back, but you'll learn more about that. But they're trying to maintain the building they're in, and obviously, it's a building they've done a great job of keeping it modernized, and a building that was built in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So anyway, these are, this project will go on, similar to what the chief was saying. You want to just explain the inside, because that's kind of cool.
May I excuse
Okay.
you for a second? Could you gentlemen make sure your microphone's on?
Yeah, we didn't
please?
realize we were on TV here.
Is that on now? Yep.
We want royalties.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, what we're gonna do in the rear is we'll take the deck off and fill in the drive-in, so that'll all have to be bricked in. Instead of having a drive-in access, we're gonna have a set of stairs going down, and we're gonna have a set of stairs going up into the truck room floor. What they'll do is they'll build a brick entrance with windows and everything, and we're gonna take the old antique fire truck there, the hand tub, and they're gonna build a platform so that this will become almost like the main entrance to the fire station. So you'll be able to walk in, the hand tub there that's worth a lot of money and has a lot of history value to the city of Leominster. We'll have nice lighting on it, and there'll be a stairway to go upstairs to the truck room floor, and then there'll be a stairway to go in the basement. In the basement is where all our protective gear is. So when a firefighter comes in the morning, they'll go right down in the basement, get their gear, go up the interior stairway, and then at the end of the day, same thing, is it'll be an entrance and exit. We also want to make it a little safer too, because the exit discharge now walks out into the side of alleyway, so the cars are back and forth. This discharge will bring you out, and then will gradually bring you out into the parking lot. As you know, we have in and out all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the rest of this request,
Be
Of the
$65,000 to purchase a new deputy chief car. As you know, we started going to the more of the SUV command centers. When they dispatch somebody now, they're already sort of, rather than wait for the chief or the deputy or lieutenant to get there, they're already sort of setting, sort of working to set up a command staging area in case they need one. So the SUVs have been really important. They house all our maps in the back and all the equipment. And so we've been doing that over time, but now the newest, the oldest one is now the one that needs to sort of go into the reserve end. So $65,000 will be to buy a new deputy chief's vehicle. And then
the last piece is
the $17,500, give me the extra 10 cents, $17,499.90 is for Squad 1, that's for the
Yeah, the
pump.
Squad 1, the fire truck, the pump has, it's leaking water into the oil transfer case, so we have to rebuild the pump, and that's the quote we got.
I see you attached a quote, thank you. to
Yep,
the-
yep.
to- Any members of the Finance Committee have, I assume Councilor Cormier, you can participate in this?
I can.
Any members of the Finance Committee have any questions for either the mayor or the chief?
I have no questions.
Councilor Cormier?
I'm all set as well.
Any other members of the council generally have any questions for either the mayor or the chief on this? Okay, and I'll just check with my committee. Everybody okay with this one?
I'm in agreement, yes.
Yeah,
Well said.
okay.
C-68,
Thank you.
thanks, chief.
Oh, well, we're still on 64, I guess, because we haven't gone through
Okay.
the other.
Okay,
Actually, I probably jumped the gun on the recommendation of the committee because we still have the other 4.
Yep.
So highway capital outlay expenses of 232.
go to DPW.
Yeah.
C-61,
Oh, there's $232,000 of capital outlay under C-64, which I guess is, let's see, I've got a letter from the DPW director regarding line striping for the roads of $50,000.
oh, okay, I see. This is by department.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
let me find C-64, okay. So 572,000,
No, 232, that's the whole thing, but the highway capital is just 232. The majority of which looks like for a new 6-wheel dump truck.
okay. The highway, so 232, here's the breakdown, $12,000 towards the cost of a new sweeper. We had appropriated some money last year for a new sweeper. It ended up, everyone is migrating to these, for a while, remember the street sweeper that had all the bristles on it, went down the street? Well, they came up with a new vacuum system, so everybody migrated to the new vacuum system. Well, now everybody's migrating back, and the other ones that require a lot of maintenance after a certain amount of time, and we did get our money's worth out of them. So we appropriated some money, but the prices came in higher, $12,000 higher than we had appropriated. All we had is estimates to provide at the same time. So we will get a new sweeper based on the money that's already appropriated, and this $12,000 will give us a complete unit.
All right, then you had 100 and,
$50,000 for line striping,
right,
and more and more as I get older and older, I count on those lines, and especially on a rainy night, and more streets. As you probably noticed, there are more secondary roads now that we're putting lines on, and for a good reason.
You laughed at me a few years ago when I brought that.
Well, you're older than me, and it took me a few more years to catch up to you. But in any event, $50,000 for line striping. As we do each project, in that project now, as we've been doing for the last so many years, we put in a spec for line painting. So as we finished Central Street, and a couple of the other streets that were done in the past, they came back. It got too cool in the late fall, so they came back in the spring and did them. So now all new projects will have that built right into them, but these are just going back some of the older streets that need line painting. So that's $50,000. And $170,000 out of that, 232 would be for the purchase of a new 6-wheel dump truck with plow and spreader. Trucks are taking a beating. We use them year-round, both summer and winter. And obviously, in the frame, I'm not sure I can explain this correctly, in the frame, it used to be, they're making them now all one piece. In the past, they would make the steel and have and make it 2-piece, and eventually the salt and everything and the ice and the freezing gets into it, and it actually splits the top part of the frame. I have a picture if you want to see it, but did I explain that correctly? It actually splits it in two. Now it comes all one piece. That's not an issue. What they're doing to sustain the life of the trucks down there is some of the floors get rusted out. They're replacing them. The engines they're keeping as long as they possibly can. Some of the trucks down there date back to 1992 or 1997. And so those are still in operation. They're replacing the beds on them. But there are just some trucks that we just can no longer sort of keep together. The engines are starting to go. We've got our most useful life out of them. And they stayed in the state of good repair for a lot longer than they were supposed to. So this is for a new DPW 6-wheel truck with plow and spreader.
so that accounts for the $232,000 request. as I
That's the
see it.
total amount, correct.
All right, so I'll open that up then to members of the Finance Committee. Any questions on that?
No questions.
None.
And the council in general, any councils have any questions? Check with my members, my committee members, are you okay with that portion of C-64?
I am.
All set.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I guess we move on to the municipal building capital outlay.
Can I do C-64 under rec department?
Sure.
Just because that's how I
Sure.
have it.
Yeah,
I think there were some residents who showed up at the last city council meeting talking about pickleball.
Yep.
Don't think you can just go down there and start taking up the game. You'll find that they are very experienced and in great shape and very competitive. Anyway, remember, we spent a substantial amount of money on our tennis courts, and they need some crack filling over the years. And the longer you let it go, the more expensive it's gonna be to fix the tennis courts, or you get to that stage where you have to rebuild them. So we're trying to avoid that by doing some crack repair. The total cost of the project's almost $38,500, but the rec department is using part of their revolving fees to pay for that.
So we're appropriating 22 when they have
Yes.
17,000
That's correct.
in their revolving account to make up the entire 38,000
That's correct.
cost of the project. All right, that being said, I'll check with members of my committee if they have any questions on that portion of C-64.
Mr. Mayor, is this only at the Doyle Field?
We'll go as far as we can, but they all need it, but so far that's gonna handle Doyle Field. I don't know, we think, where's Judy? Can we get a little, Judy, yes, and we can get a little further into the process? I know this isn't gonna be an easy answer, but Judy, this is just for Doyle, or can we do the other? I know we needed that.
We had funds that we were carrying over from
Okay.
previous years to address
The rest of them, okay. Because
Because
we had them all done over at one time. We had Marlboro Tennis Court Company, if you can believe it. There's actually a company that did a beautiful job, but that's been over 8 or 10 years now, so.
So I'm hoping, I mean, the quotes that I had, I'm hoping that those quotes still will cover the cost of repairing all the courts. We plan on doing 4 new basketball courts, the southeast basketball courts, and then if we have funds, we'll do the Bennett School courts as well. But also part of that money for Doyle is to put in 4 pickleball courts. They'll have separate.
Judy, can you
posts.
come to the microphone, please?
I knew this wasn't gonna, I tried
That's all
to
right,
move it
that's all
along,
right.
but pickleball is important these days.
I was down there today, and they had a clinic.
Oh,
Had to
it's
be
just
at least
si-
60 people, and it looked like literally professional people down there putting on professional.
What I've heard from golfers is once they reach the point where they just don't either have time, or they use that as an excuse, but they're not that good anymore, and they're having a ball, and literally having a ball. So pickleball is like, I heard down in Florida, like the villages, it's like,
Yeah.
you gotta wait in line to.
Yeah,
get a
pickleball
court.
is really taking off in all the communities around here. All the rec departments are seeing the need for pickleball courts. So since we have 8 courts at Doyle right now, and we have painted lines for pickleball to be on 5 of those courts, the pickleball players had recommended that we take 1 court, 1 tennis court out of the 8, and then put 4 pickleball courts on 1 court. And we would put up the post and the nets, and that 38,000 included the post and the nets. If the bids come in lower, perhaps we can even do 2 courts, so that we'll have 6 for tennis, and then we'll have 8 for pickleball. So that's something that we're looking at maybe doing even more than just the 4. But we can still paint some of the lines on a regular tennis court for pickleball. But their nets are a little bit
There was some
lower.
question, Judy, if I may, regarding the MIAA regulations on that.
I checked
Is
with
that
them, and they said
cleared
it's
now?
okay. It's
It is
okay.
okay? Okay.
Yes, yeah, and a lot of other communities are doing as well.
Great.
The only issue that Southborough had when they were looking to put pickleball lines on their tennis courts is they received grant funding from USTA for painting their courts. So USTA does not allow pickleball on any projects that they funded for tennis.
Well, don't take any of their money, just come see the mayor.
No pickleball for you, right?
Anyway, so we have,
I'll
I think
take
there's
you on.
approximately 50 pickleball players now, and,
Yeah, it's
there's a
big.
lot of them
It's
there.
huge.
But we still have approximately 100 players that play tennis as well, but it seems like there's a more organized group with the pickleball at this time.
Fantastic.
So like I said, the funding for the other courts, the basketball courts, we have plans to do renovations there as well. We're carrying over funds that were appropriated in previous years for the cracks on those courts. And Southeast basketball courts need it, and the tennis courts over at Southeast and the skate park. And we're hoping we'll have enough funds for, depending what the bids come in at, these are just quotes, we're hoping we have funds for Bennett Court, basketball court as well.
Okay.
But Greg wanted to bid everything all at once, so we are holding off, waiting until we did all the courts at once and not just bid it out for separate courts.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
Great.
questions from finance?
I'm all set.
So Pauline, the answer was yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Members of the council, Councilor Frida?
Yeah, just had to be, 2 years ago, Judy, that I went before the board for the pickleball people.
Yes.
And there just seemed to be so much back and forth with people that play tennis and people that play pickleball, and I think it was all over the lines, artificial lines being put down. So I'm glad, it's too bad it took that long, but I'm glad it's been resolved, because the pickleball group is just really, it's just snowballed. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but it's nice to see so many adults, being active and using the courts.
Got to
So-
keep them busy.
Well, the rec department was in a little bit of a pickle.
Yes, they
they
were.
Now they're out of it. Good.
We were.
Now you're in it.
Thank you.
You all set, Councilor Frida?
Yeah, thank you.
Any other members of the council have any questions about this portion of C-64? I'll check with members of my committee. Are we okay with this portion?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm all set.
Mr. Mayor, which piece would you like next?
Emergency Management, C-64.
Yeah.
$35,000. We had talked a while ago, we were sort of planning, again, we had to wait to find out exactly what funding we did have, and this is to purchase a new pickup truck. This is the truck that they use to pull all their trailers that they have. We went to trailers rather than trucks to save on cost. Now we have several trailers, but the truck that was pulling them has really seen its last day.
All right, any questions from finance on this one?
No questions?
None.
Members of the council generally? Okay, and finance committee members okay with this one?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess the last piece of that, Mr. Mayor, is municipal
Municipal.
building capital
Right.
outlay.
And
expenses.
as you know, we've been trying to do our best to hold this building together in terms of the roof. The rest of the building's in good shape. At some point, we'll have to update the electrical, but the more pressing need is the roof. We're constantly up there with repairs, and when I say repairs, some of the valleys, some of the gutters are, seeing their best day in 101 years. They're getting a little tired, and as well as the roof. We're getting to the point where they go up to fix, the slate gets brittle after so many years, and you go up to fix 2 slates and you take down 20. So now you fix 20 and then you take down another 100, so it's time. And so this will be just to do the engineering and get us to the point where we have some estimated cost, so we can go out to bid. And then $20,000 is on municipal buildings, but it's really economic development. That sign that we have down on Route 2, it's had the same message for a long time. Just welcome to Leominster, Johnny Appleseed. It's the actual billboard is beginning to deteriorate. There's been no maintenance at all on that. And that is the only sign that's pretty much allowed on any state highway in the state. That's a valuable resource. You couldn't get that permitted. I'm on the board at MassDOT, and I asked today, could you get that permitted? You absolutely couldn't even get that permitted today. So it needs some serious work and a new message on the top. We've developed a new logo for the city, and that comes in perfect timing. So, yeah, $20,000 would be for getting that sign brought back up to standards and then putting a new message on that. The lights are out now, they're antiquated, they need to be LED, new fixtures. It really does need a lot of work. But we don't want to give up that location. That's a prime location.
Any chance of doing that on 190, or like you said, you can't do it any
No
longer?
more. Mm-mm. In fact, the Registry of Motor Vehicles, if you've noticed, they're going to that new sort of federal ID system. They're buying billboards all over the state to try to get people to go to the website to do business rather than go to the registry because of the serious backup. They're spending thousands of dollars to buy ads on those big electronic billboards. So the answer is no, they don't allow it.
Members of finance, any questions on this section of C-64?
I have no questions.
I'm all set.
Members of the council, any questions? And does this mean we have a unanimous recommendation on C-64?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, which one would you like to address next?
Whichever one you want, I'm okay now.
Why don't we go back to C-59, and that's $5,000 to the city clerk salary
Yes.
and wages account, same to be transferred from the city clerk salary and wages account, so,
And I think you know what that is. That's just
Yep.
the overlap for training, right, Lynn? I mean, that's just so you can bring the new person on while you're here. Where is she? I never met you. Hi.
There we go.
I never met you. Nice to meet you. Yeah. Welcome
Day one
aboard.
today.
If you stay here long enough, Mark will write a book about you. Because you'll have enough stories to tell.
at least an article.
That's it.
All right,
So that's to compensate for that overlap time between
And
clerks.
as well as training, right? This, well, period, for the period
Oh,
of
yeah,
training, right?
absolutely.
We
All right.
appreciate that also. Thank
Yeah.
you.
No, that's a good way to doing it.
Any questions from finance on this one?
No questions.
Any questions from the
No,
council generally?
otherwise, I'll just make a comment that we're just transferring money. It's an
Yes, right.
interdepartmental
Correct.
transfer,
Yeah.
so we're not even spending anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Any members of the council have any questions? And I suspect that finance is okay with this one, too?
Yes.
All right, C60, which is relative to the appropriation of $40,129 to the police department capital outlay expense account, same to be transferred from excess and deficiency.
The chief couldn't be here tonight, but both he and I agree, and I think you would agree, the number one call we get when we run to people is traffic issues, whether it's speeding or loud noise or whatever. And we purchased a sedan, four-door unmarked cruiser, and we've been using that everywhere, and it's really successful. And just being in traffic, you just be amazed at how much you see being in an unmarked car. You know, just dangerous drivers doing things you can't imagine that sometimes you just don't see. So our efforts are really to expand the traffic department in the city and do more of it. And we take all those calls for those speed trailers and traffic enforcement. Just today, Bartel Street, there must have been 5 streets just on the west side that came in where people are, saying, people are just flying up and down my street. So our goal is, number one is to really sort of add to that traffic patrol. So this is completely fit out. They're fit out differently than a standard sector cruiser that travels the regular wards.
All right, members of finance, any questions?
I have no questions.
No questions.
Council generally? Okay, is this something the finance committee wants to recommend?
I'm all set, yes.
Mr. Mayor, C61, relative to the appropriation of $37,000, the snow and ice overtime account, seems to be transferred from excess and deficiency account. And I guess related there too, C62,
Correct.
relative to the appropriation of $13,000 to the snow and ice expense account, same to be transferred from excess and deficiency account. I guess this is the final bill, right?
Right. What we had, Mark and Ray, when we spoke, rather than keep coming down for, the bills were still coming in, and there was damage on properties and mailboxes and curbing and all of that, we decided just to wait until the last meeting so that we had an accurate amount, and we weren't coming down here every time for $5,000 and $10,000 to finish out the season. It was just a strange season this year because we had really cold weather, and then snow, and then water, and then it thawed, and then it froze again, and we did a lot of damage. We tore up a lot of curbing this year, a lot of lawns, and it wasn't on purpose, I can guarantee you that. But normally, things that are frozen in place when you have a snowstorm and you bring those plows down the street especially the last 2 storms were just everything was thawed and we were plowing snow. And we try to stay away from the curbs as much as we can, but then we get calls to go back because we're too far away. And, we do damage, no question. So
All right.
this is the final bill.
So with respect to either C61 or C62, do any members of the finance committee have any questions?
I have no questions.
All set.
Members of the council, any questions on either one of those communications? All right, it'd be our position on both the grant?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. That brings us to C63, which I think is our last one, Mr. Mayor. Relative to the appropriation of $250,000 to the school department expense account, $40,000 to be transferred from excess and deficiency account, and $210,000 from the school department prior year expense account.
So at the tail end of last year, what we've been doing is we've been appropriating about approximately $250,000 a year to put towards technology. And one of the issues has been, we've reached that point where students can learn year-round. So they can learn on vacation, they can check their marks. The technology available to students now is absolutely amazing, and we have software in the schools to do that. And so education doesn't have to learn. For a lot of students, retention is a big thing during the summer. Sometimes they lose the skills and the knowledge that they were taught during the last 6 to 9 months. And so we're trying to get Chromebooks into the hands of those students who might not have a computer available to them at home, might not have access to the ones at the public library. And so that's what this funding will be, is to help out with the Chromebooks and as well as technology. That will be left to the school department in terms of exactly what the nomination of funds goes to which part. So, and it really, myself, that's really a year by year. You've got to get the technology that are in the schools, but really the wave of the future, and I mean future by next year, year after, is getting technology into the students' hands along with the software. The technology is one thing to get them on the internet, where, you know, you look on the internet, start off by looking at somebody's birth date, and the next thing you know, you're in Cleveland in the state bird. But the fact of the matter is, the software today for education is remarkable. And so a student can learn 12 months a year. If he's homesick that day, he can get his lesson plan up for that day. So the teacher can put the lesson plan up. There's no need. We'll get to the time, I know kids don't like to hear this, but we'll get to the day where the lesson plan will be up there, and maybe we'll cancel school, but they're gonna have to do their work from home. I know kids don't like to hear that, but that's the reality of it. So that's really the direction that we have to go in, is to get those tools into the hands of students that might not have technology available to them.
We're way behind on that,
And we're gonna get there.
way behind.
Yeah. And as I said, we had to wait. One of the things is, like anything else, is once the technology's there, then everybody sort of jumps into the business. The guy that makes paper towels for Procter & Gamble, they jump in, everybody jumps into it. And it takes a little while to sort it out, like solar. Remember how many communities went immediately, solar, oh, we gotta go solar, it looks good, right? Looks like a green community. But so many of these companies went out of business, and communities are stuck with this solar technology that's just obsolete. They don't make parts for it, the company went out of business, and they're pulling these things apart. We waited a little longer and got, and we went with companies that are reliable and have a long-term sustainability in the business. Same thing with technology. You've really got to invest in those companies that are going to be around, and we'll update that, technology and have some sustainability. So we've reached that point now where there are a couple of companies that it's just amazing. I get on regularly, and I'm just amazed at what a student can learn. And you find anything that you're interested in. The teacher only has an hour a day, maybe. And then with all the interruptions and fire drills and training for this and assemblies, it gets watered down. So a student that's really interested in a particular subject, they can go forever with the technology that's available in the software.
Members of finance, questions?
I don't have any questions.
Yeah, I do have a question. Roughly how many Chromebooks do we know? Roughly how many Chromebooks will this money buy?
Look at the state bid list. I'm not sure what they're coming in at. I mean, they're dropping in price all the time. My only concern all the time is it's sort of like when anybody gets into any business and it becomes proprietary, even for us. Once you have that technology, it's, are they suddenly going to add a fee to something? So we'll have to look at that. But Chromebook seems to be the thing, and they seems to be the lowest cost right now. And it seems to be the technology that has the most right now, at the cutting edge, but they're really inexpensive now. I don't know what a Chromebook goes for, I can ask Greg, but they drop almost weekly.
Okay.
It's a commodity at this point. It's the software that's the, proprietary product that you pay for.
Members of the council, any questions? Okay, finance, okay with this one? Okay.
I'm all set.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure, thank you. And despite the fact, that we didn't have the normal funds that we have, next year, we're hoping to move, do a lot of what we were planning on doing this year and starting those projects next year. So the bids will be in for the roof for this building. We hope to be able to have those funds, the dam at Barrett Park, all the things that we were delayed, but we still were able to get a lot of things done. As you know, Doyle Field opened on Saturday, and people are thrilled with it. It has exercise equipment, and the track that we put in before, we never really had a track. It was just people walked over the lawn, and it created a track. They actually dug down to the subsurface and put proper soils and drainage there. So we might not get 12 months a year, depending on what the weather is, but we're gonna get, you know, the season's gonna be extended down there, and it's just becoming a really busy place, so thank you for, you know, we can't get those grants unless we can get the necessary city funds, and the council's been real good about stepping up to the plate and doing that. So, year end, I can tell you, we got a lot done, and a lot of it with grants and other mechanisms for alternative ways of funding things, so, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming down, Mr. Mayor, at
Sure.
6:20, and we'll deliver it right on time to the
Awesome,
council
thank you.
president for our first hearing.
Will there be a financial bonus for that now, if you can get down there?
Taken under advisement.
We'll get back to
Public service.
Good evening. This is a hearing before the council, public service, 70-18, National Grid, Central Street. Install one singular owned pole on Central Street, beginning at a point approximately 20 feet west of the center line of the intersection of 1155 Central Street. I know there's somebody here to speak on behalf of National Grid.
Yes. Hi, my name's Mark Tapley. I'm with National Grid. So I'm here for the petition for the pole to go in across from pole 106 at the address of roughly 1155. It's to replace an anchor that's into an old tree that's rotting. So the pole is going to be basically used just as an anchor to support the pole that's currently there across the street and stop that from leaning and being pulled over.
So the other pole is gonna stay there?
The other pole is staying, it's across the street. This pole has a wire that goes across Central Street and into a tree that's rotting. So we're taking that anchor out of the rotting tree and we're installing a pole with an anchor to bring it up to standards.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Members of public service, have any questions?
No questions.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in support of 70-18? Again, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support? The third and final time, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to 70-18? The final time, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? If not, do we have any problem closing the hearing?
No.
Okay. I'll declare the hearing closed. Council regarding 71-18, National Grid and Verizon New England, Grant Street, install one jointly owned pole on Grant Street, beginning at a point approximately 370 feet northwest of the center line of the intersection of Central Street and continuing approximately 16 feet in a north direction.
Hi, Mark Tapley once again from National Grid. This pole is to service the customer at 524 Grant Street. He will be going underground from this pole that's being installed at the corner of his property to his garage or secondary garage building that's at the back side of his property. It's what's for to service him.
What's the purpose of putting that pole up?
It's to allow him to go underground to the pole. Otherwise, he'd have to put another pole in his property elsewhere, and we'd have to go diagonally over his property. So we're gonna install a single pole, and he's gonna go underground to that pole from the garage.
So will there be nothing else will be up?
Nope. It's just a pole that's going in line.
Okay. Any members of the public service?
Do we know, is that a commercial property?
It's a residential property, as far as I know. I know he's got the big garage that's back there behind the donut shop. But that's what it'll be feeding, but there's no electricity that comes through there, so he owns he owns that piece of property that has both buildings on it.
Okay.
You all set, Counselor? You all set, Counselor?
Yes.
Any other counselors have any questions or comment? If not, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in support of this petition? For the second time, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support? For the third and final time, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of 71-18? If not, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Again, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? For the third and final time, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to 71-18? Hearing none, I'll check with my committee. Is there any opposition to closing the hearing?
No.
So the hearing will be closed, Madam Clerk.
before the Leominster City Council. This is petition 41-18, Kristen Kelly, Planning Director. Amend Article 11, Section 22-60 of the Leominster zoning ordinance to add language requiring deep observation hole testing for stormwater infiltration detention areas. And if the two of you could just identify yourselves for the public.
Kristen Kelly, Planning Director.
I'm Mark Pimarini, Assistant Director of Public Works.
Okay. And I don't know if either one of you want to just give us a quick summary of the petition?
I'll start, but I'm going to let Mark talk about the technical details. This
Okay.
is not my specialty. So deep hole observation testing is something that the DPW has been requiring for certain projects in the planning board as part of the site plan approval as a condition. Because it's important that the DPW personally observe these tests to ensure that they're done correctly and meet the requirements. So Mark suggested that the zoning be amended to include this, so it's just part of the regular site plan approval process. So he provided the wording, and there's also, I'm hoping you have this document. This went out a while ago, but it provides the draft language for the added section and some reasons why this would be appropriate. So I'll let Mark explain a bit.
Yeah, just like if you're similar to septic systems, when a Board of Health will go out and inspect a deep hole, it's the same thing for its drainage. So we can see the deep hole being done, because we review the drainage calculations, and to see the deep hole done and then see the drainage calculations, you say, oh, yeah, that works. I mean, if a drainage system isn't done correctly, you may have water running off to our city streets, then then we get the calls later on if the site's done, or abutting properties. So we're just trying to make sure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dashed, with the drainage. I mean, that's basically, and this will put teeth into it, what I mean? The ordinance has it, they have to call it. They do it now, so it's really just.
All right, I'll read Kristen, I think that draft is dated March 5th, right, 2018?
And that has not changed.
Okay, so why don't I'm just going to read that into the record. This is proposed 60.1.18.
Actually, I'm sorry, can I?
Sure.
One thing that did happen in the meantime that you may have gotten was a recommendation from the planning board, and I bring it up because they asked to add some language to it. So
Okay.
if you have the recommendation from the planning board.
I do have that.
Okay.
That's dated.
It was dated May 10th.
Yes, May 10th, 2018. Okay, why don't I'll read the proposed language, and then I'll read the planning board recommendation.
Okay.
So the initial proposed language was for section 60.1.18, deep observation hole tests for stormwater infiltration detention areas. The purpose of the deep observation hole test is to determine the soil profile in the proposed infiltration detention area, the depth of overburden above ledge, bedrock, or impervious layers, soil type, and characteristics, and to determine the estimated seasonal high groundwater elevation. A minimum of one deep observation hole test shall be performed in the presence of the approving authority of each proposed infiltration/detention area. The number and location of the deep hole test should be coordinated with the approving authority. Additional testing shall be required if, in the opinion of the soil evaluator or the approving authority, there is evidence of inconsistent soil characteristics, the presence of ledge, or additional testing is necessary to properly assess site conditions within the proposed location to ensure that it can be installed in accordance with the proposed design. The above referenced approving authority is the City of Leominster Department of Public Works Engineering Division. And then it goes on to give an explanation of the testing should be required for the following reasons. Number one, after the DPW has seen the deep hole test, they can review the infiltration/recharge design and be confident that the way it has been designed will work properly. Number two, reviewing the deep hole and the design to make sure the infiltration recharge systems work properly helps to prevent flooding impacts on abutting properties and on city roadways. Number three, most engineers perform soil testing in the infiltration recharge areas in order to design them. Therefore, they will need to coordinate this testing with the DPW. Number 4, many cities and towns require deep hole testing in the infiltration recharge areas. They may not require that the testing be inspected, but the DPW feels it is necessary in order to keep everything in check, which I think is essentially what you summarized, Mr. Pimarini, yes. And then we did get a recommendation dated May 10th, 2018, from the planning board. This is addressed to the city clerk. At a regularly scheduled planning board meeting on May 7th, 2018, the planning board voted unanimously to recommend approval of the above referenced petition to require deep observation hole testing for stormwater infiltration detention areas, provided that the following words be added to the language. Quote, "The deep hole testing shall be performed by a Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection certified soil evaluator. Please contact me with any questions or concerns," and it's signed by the Director of Planning and Development. So, Mr. Pimarini, are you okay with that language that the
Yeah.
planning board brought
Yes,
forward?
usually they're done by them, and just so you know, the engineering department, myself and John Roseberry are certified soil evaluators as well.
Okay, so we're covered. All right, so I think we'll probably need an amendment at the time we go to vote to add that language. I think there was one other recommendation dated April 12th, 2018. This is from the building commissioner. Members of the Legal Affairs Committee, I am in receipt of a communication dated April 9th, 2018, requesting my recommendation on petition 4118 to amend Article 11, Section 2260 of the Leominster zoning ordinance to add language requiring deep preservation hole testing for stormwater infiltration detention areas. I am in favor of adopting this change several times a year when new streets or parking areas are built. It includes water infiltration detention areas to get rid of storm runoff. The deep observation hole testing is to make sure the soil in that particular part of the city will work properly to allow water to seep back in the ground through these detention areas. If you have any questions or need further information, please feel free to contact my office. Sincerely, Peter Nile, Building Commissioner. Do any members of Legal Affairs have any questions or comments? Council Frida?
Yeah, just, Mark, does this have anything to do with the MS4 permitting, or will it help?
It'll help. It doesn't have anything to do with it. It's really just more for us, so when we're reviewing, we can be confident that it's gonna work well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? No. Council Bedanza, anything?
I just want to thank you for bringing this forward. I think this is great. I think, you know, being able to have that check, this can be very important sometimes. You know, not that engineers don't do a good job with their drainage calcs, but
Yeah, all the
having
engineers
the
around
real
town
world
agree.
look is really a valuable thing. And thank you for doing it, both you and Kristen.
Yeah, no, I would echo that. I think engineers are more subjective than objective oftentimes, but no, I appreciate it as well. Before I go to the public, do any other counselors have any questions or comments? Seeing none, does any member of the audience wish to address the council either in favor of or against this petition? Second time, does any member of the audience wish to address the council either in favor of or against this petition? Third and final time, does any member of the audience wish to address the council either in favor of or against this petition? Seeing none, I think my recommendation, I'll go to my committee, would be to amend the proposed ordinance to reflect the planning board's concern. And then my recommendation would be to approve it. Council Frida?
I agree.
Council Bedanza?
I'm in agreement also.
Okay, so unless there's any objection by any other counselor, I would close the public hearing. Okay, seeing none, public hearing's closed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. See that, Mr. President?
Right on
Unbelievable.
time. Nice
No,
job.
no, but
You've been spoiled. I'm conversing with my doctor who's in Italy.
39-18, Prime Wellness Centers, grant a special permit to build a medical marijuana cultivation facility located at 1771 Lock Drive. This is a hearing that was continued from May 14th, 2018. And I'm going to read a letter into the record that we received from the owner of the property, Summit Management. Good afternoon, Councilor Frida. We hereby request to table the petition number 39-18 for the Prime Wellness Cultivation Center on 1771 Log Drive in Leominster, owned by Margot Exaris, for Monday, June 4, 2018. If there are any problems with this request, please let me know. Thank you, Summit Management, 507 Lancaster Street, Suite 101, Leominster, Mass. So with that, the request will be to table. We'll leave the hearing open, since the request is from the petitioner. So if there's no objection from the other member of Legal Affairs.
No, there isn't. By leaving it open, I guess we don't get into a constructive grant problem.
Well, I don't think it's constructive if they ask
They ask
for it,
for it.
if I'm correct, right? They have to ask for it.
And my understanding is that the 1,000-foot buffer is at play here anyway, so it's kind of
Right.
moot. So
I think, yeah,
I don't have any difficulty with it.
okay. So with that, the recommendation would be to leave the hearing open.
Okay, there's one piece I'd like to add into it, if I can,
Sure.
to the minutes. There was a question regarding the integrity of a question at the last hearing we had by Mr. Glowick, identifying that he in fact stated to the council that they may potentially go recreation. And I just want to read it for the minutes for the committee for when we take this up again, so we don't institutionally lose the memory part.
Is that the February 27th meeting?
Yeah, it is. And it said, basically, the minutes are, Councilor Marchian said that the Commonwealth has passed the opportunity for recreational, if the Commonwealth passes the opportunity for recreational marijuana, how does this play into the project? Keeping in mind this was medical marijuana we were looking at for the host agreement, non-opposition letter, or the non-opposition letter. Mr. Scazelli, who was their representative, said it doesn't. He said the legislation is clear. Councilor Marchian then said, do you close up shop as a pharmaceutical distributor and go strictly recreational? Mr. Scazelli said no. Mr. Glowick said we will stay with medical marijuana. And Councilor Frida said the state does not come out with a regulation by January. You have the authority to go recreational. Mr. Glowick and Mr. Scazelli said they have not heard that. So on the record, we need to straighten out Mr. Glowick in that he now knows this is what he did state when they came in for the letter of non-opposition a while back. Okay, so I'd like to have this entered into the minutes of I'll pass it off to the clerk.
Okay, will
thank you.
do. I'm just looking at this again. Is this a typo, or is this actually a cultivation facility? Is he looking to do medical or recreational? Or is this on the,
Well, the way that it's stated here, it says grant a special permit to build a medical marijuana cultivation facility.
so this is
I
on
don't-
the,
I don't think it's a typo, because his understanding when it was before us, when this hearing commenced, was that he didn't need us to convert this to an adult use
Right.
facility. So I don't think it's a typo. We, of course, know otherwise.
I'm reading what he has handwritten here, and it says, Prime Wellness is seeking a special permit to build a marijuana cultivation facility. Does not say medical.
it was not medical. So we need to look at that and amend it.
Well, we can, if we table it, I guess it's.
We're gonna table it
It's
anyway,
moving
so
on.
we can do
Right.
that
Right.
at a later date, so.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments before we leave the hearing open? Okay,
So the only question I have, which we may be able to clarify this evening, if not, we'll get clarification from the city solicitor, is that how long can this be tabled? How long can the hearing remain open? And is there some type of a tipping point that becomes an issue at one point?
Well, there would be a constructive grant, a constructive permit, but the way I understand it is as long as they're asking for it, if they're asking to table it, then that's covered. It would be, if we can't table it
Right,
without their permission, and then you get into, 90 days, a constructive permit?
okay, and that's been qualified by the city solicitor?
No, that's my understanding of it,
Okay,
so
so
we
what
can
we'll
check.
do is we'll double check with the city solicitor, just to be on the safe side.
Yep.
And then if there's an issue, we'll bring it back. Okay? All right, thank you. Yeah, that lasted 5 minutes, but it could've went on for an hour or two. You don't know. If it wasn't tabled.
before the Leominster City Council. This is petition 40-18, Kristen Kelly, Planning Director. Amend Article 18, Section 22105 of the Leominster zoning ordinance to include language regarding recreational marijuana facilities. And we know you, but if you could just introduce yourself to the public.
Once again, Kristen Kelly, Planning Director.
Okay, we've had a couple of subcommittee meetings, but if you just want to give us a quick summary.
Certainly. We had a subcommittee meeting today. It's a joint committee between the City Council and the Planning Board to discuss the details. There's a draft ordinance currently. It's been through a couple revisions. We discussed it some more today in the committee meeting. We're going to add some additional language to it. See if I can find that. To clarify, let's see, including following wordage, all traditional special permit criteria included but not limited to abatement of odor, noise, and traffic, and also shall include a water and power consumption plan. Those elements will be added to the draft. This information will go back to the planning board. They have their public hearing, has been continued to June 18th, Monday, and we'll discuss it further. And at that point, they will also give a recommendation on what appropriate buffer zones would be on the map. We viewed a map earlier that shows buffer zones from schools, parks, playgrounds, residential zones, and other marijuana facilities. And it illustrated the areas of town that were left after basically those areas where it's not allowed have been removed. And the planning board will offer their thoughts on what the buffer zone should be. And I will take all of the information and amend the petition and provide a clean draft to everyone for the city council's hearing has been continued to June 25th, I believe. Was that it?
We haven't continued it yet.
Oh,
but
I'm sorry,
it
okay.
probably will be
It
in
was
2 weeks.
discussed that it
Right.
could be at that time,
Yeah.
so you'll have the most up-to-date information, including all of the discussion materials for that meeting.
Okay. And Councilor Bedanza is one of the drafters. Do you want to just give a summary for the public as to, well, really the reason why this is necessary at this time?
Yeah, I would just start off with the suggestion that we really don't have a choice but to enact this type of zoning legislation, whatever your position is on the referendum that created recreational marijuana in Massachusetts. If we don't have zoning in place, then that would allow potential purveyors of marijuana to really locate just about anywhere. It's not a question of being able to prohibit the location of these facilities if, in fact, we had no ordinance on the books. So it's important to get the ordinance on the books. I believe with the way this is going so far, in terms of what we're gonna see in the final petition from the planning board, is to limit all marijuana facilities to the industrial zone, limit the number of dispensaries to the minimum number permitted by the Cannabis Control Commission regulations previously promulgated a little earlier this year, which would be 3 dispensaries in Leominster. And as Ms. Kelly indicated, the planning board will take up the issue of buffer zones in relationship to those facilities as well. So I think we're on a good pace. We should have all of this in place before there's anything proposed to take advantage of this in Leominster. And I would also like to thank Kristen for the hard work, and as well as the planning board that they've all done on this. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to add one more thing that we didn't discuss at the earlier meeting. There was 2 questions that we had. Your comment reminded me. We had 2 questions that we needed to understand better, and it's regarding the number of dispensaries that need to be allowed based on the regulations. We're required to allow as many marijuana dispensaries. It is dispensaries, not just establishments. That is at least 20% of the beer and wine. I think it's the liquor licenses that provide for sale for off-premises consumption. So we needed clarification on what those numbers were. I've since learned that there are 9 of those licenses. So 20% of that would be, I'm just going to assume that we're going to go with 2. So that number, that magic number for recreational what's the word? Retailers would be 2. I think that, I'm comfortable with that. I'm gonna just double check that with KP Law, but I think that would meet that requirement. So as far as other types of facilities besides retailers, it's not part of the equation. I guess that's up to the city to decide. But they would need to provide for at least 2.
Okay, well, that's good. Counselor Frida, is the clerk, do you have any questions or comments at this time?
No, but I still have a difference of opinion, so, but we're not voting tonight, so.
Okay. All right, so I guess at this point, we'd be looking to continue the public hearing to get the final draft and also the recommendation from the planning board as to the final draft and also as to the buffer zone.
Yes.
Okay. Any other counselors have any questions or comments at this time? Seeing none, is there any member of the audience who wishes to address the council either in favor of or against this petition? Second time, does any member of the audience wish to address the council either in favor of or against this petition? Third and final time, does any member of the audience wish to address the council either in favor of or against this petition? Mr. President, at this point, the recommendation later this evening will be further time, and we'll be looking for a date to continue the hearing.
Do you want June 25th or do you want June, July?
No, we'd prefer June 25th.
June 25th, 6:30.
So this public hearing will be continued to June 25th, 2018 at 6:30. Okay, and again, thank you very much, Kristen.
Thank you.
Appreciate all the hard work.
Said every time he comes down here, I think it's the mold. No.
Okay, team. Someone took a souvenir from City Hall. Check eBay tonight, please. Okay. Okay, the public forum is an opportunity for any member of the audience to speak on any matter specifically listed on the council agenda. Speakers will be asked to come to the microphone and state their formal name and address, along with identifying the specific item or items they wish to address. Each speaker is respectfully asked to keep the comments within a 2-minute time frame. The council will not be responding or answering any questions. However, at the discretion of the council president, clarification may be given if necessary. We have Kristen Kelly is the first one signed up.
Can't get rid of me tonight.
Anyway, that's fine. We're gonna kidnap you, you're staying here.
Thanks. I will talk about something completely different. It is on the agenda tonight. It's our CDBG Year 44 Action Plan. This is FY19 effectively. It begins July 1st, and we're in the process of putting together and officially submitting the action plan for the year. I believe that you've seen a copy of this year's budget, and I will talk a little bit about that. One thing I'm happy to report is that the total funding allocation for this coming year, year 44, has been increased to $461,287. That's over $30,000 more than the current year. And so we're excited to be able to offer a little bit more to the public services. In the past years, last year I believe it was $63,000. We're able to up that to $69,000 for the various public services that we fund that help homeless families, that help elderly, that help children, and other general public services. We do provide funding for the Beacon of Hope. We're able to award them $4,500 this year, and this is all proposed in the proposed action plan, but this is our what we're going to be submitting. The city's recreation department summer program, $3,500. The mayor's office energy assistance program will have $10,000. The mayor's summer youth program, which is hiring students for the summer, students who are low mod income, and they provide landscaping and maintenance jobs around the city for the summer, $13,500. The state pool, we could provide money for pool passes for students and, families. Montechusett Home Care financial program provides financial assistance to elderly persons. Montechusett Interfaith Hospitality Network, $7,500. They provide homeless family assistance here in the city. The Spanish American Center has 2 programs, the Crossroads program, which is a summer program, and the Referral and Advocacy Project. So combined, that's $11,000 for those 2 programs we're able to provide. Allen Crest Learning Center is located in the Leominster Housing Authority and provides after-school homework assistance for students living there. The YWCA Violence Prevention Education Program travels to the schools, provides education to students on this topic. We were able to award $3,500. And the YMCA, the new branch right here downtown, has a program called Working on Wellness. Again, it's for students after school and help mostly with nutrition and lifestyle choices, $4,000. So we're very happy to have increased the allocation for that. Let's see. This also allows us to put more money toward our housing rehab program. So we're able to allocate from the entitlement funds $96,000 towards that program. And of course, that program also benefits from what we call program income, which is when the liens that are placed on homes that have had repairs, the house may be sold or refinanced, and the lien is paid off. That money comes back to the city. It's reallocated to this program. Let's see. One small change to the budget this year, it's worth mentioning, and the timing on this was a little odd. I learned today that because the city budget has been posted for the public, so the economic development coordinator position that's in the planning office has been, over the past few years, funded in part through CDBG. That position can now be funded through the city. That has been approved in the city budget. Because of the timing on this, I wasn't able to amend the action plan at this time. Will go forward the way it's written, but what will happen is once it's approved and once the year starts, then the year 44 action plan can be amended to account for that, and then those dollars would be reallocated to other projects. So, we'll have to decide, because again, this all kind of happened very quickly, decide where we can use those funds and then amend the action plan to include that information in there so we can reallocate those funds. So this action plan we submit jointly with Fitchburg, and it does have to be submitted by the end of June, it's the schedule. And so we will get things approved here, hopefully, and then send the finalized action plan on our part over to Fitchburg. They provide the whole thing off to HUD. They review it, and then hopefully we're good as of July 1st to go forward with the year 44 plan. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate that.
And thank you all again.
And thank you for everything.
And I appreciate everything, and I'm going now.
Thank you. That's the only person that signed up for the public forum. Would any other member of the audience like to address the council? You can come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jim Whitney, 50 Old Mill Road. I didn't sign it because there was no pen over there.
That's
and
okay.
I didn't have
Sorry.
one with me.
We've lost pens and gavels tonight, so.
I'm here to speak on the issue you have under old business. It was for a project I own at 98 Adams Street. And I just wanted to ask that if the council could have a discussion when this comes up about maybe putting some rules in place about reading unverified, unsigned letters. Because even though the intent of the letter being read was probably to embarrass me, I think it ended up being more of an embarrassment to this council from what I'm hearing. And I just want to share something with you of why I come to that. I've been dealing with a company that's looking to build a building down at Southgate Business Park for about 3 months now. And it's probably going to be about a $10 million investment. And I've been asked about TIFs. They're going to be interested in coming down in front of the council for a TIF. And he asked me what the process was. So I told him that they would be coming down here and presenting the project to see if it was something that could be approved for a TIF. So the gentleman that I'm dealing with started watching the council meetings, and he happened to watch the May 14th meeting when that was read about me. And he asked me what he was going to be dealing with, and his exact words were, "Is there any common sense down there?" He says, "Isn't it just common sense that a council would verify and check into an unsigned letter before they would read it out loud?" He said, "What are they, a bunch of high school kids down there?" I said, "Well, the thing was a joke. I didn't give it much thought. It didn't bother me. I've been dealing with politics here for 25 years, but I said, I can tell you this. If they're high schoolers, most of them, all of them, most of the time they deal like with all the issues that I have, like seniors, but clearly the one counselor dealt with it like a freshman. So you will have a good outcome when you get on there, present your project good, and it'll be a good outcome. But I do ask that you do come up with some rules so you could save yourself some embarrassment and save the citizens some embarrassment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll take that as a council president as constructive criticism.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would any other member of the audience like to? Would any other member of the audience like to address the council? Second time? Third and final call? If not, the public forum is closed. We'll be in session at 7:30.
We have an interview.
An interview first, right? Correct. So this is really weird.
Who would have taken it? Somebody moved all my stuff around. There's no
Like my
question.
cushion was on your seat, like everything was on.
on Aging, term to expire April 15th, 2021. Larry Giannakis Senior. Come right up here, Mr. Giannakis. Come around, you can come right in.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I wouldn't live without these.
Okay, you want to make sure that mic is on.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
Good.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming in, Mr. Giannakis. I'm Gail Feckley, and I'm the chairwoman of Ways and Means. And the other members of Ways and Means Committee are Councilor Claire Frida and, I've lost my train of thought, who the other one is? And John Dombrowski, and I've spent so much time with them the last few months, I don't know why I forgot that. So we did receive a letter from the mayor respectfully requesting your appointment to the Council on Aging.
Right.
And we just recently did appoint another fine candidate, Ms. Lamb,
Okay.
for the same council. So what I'd like to know is, or what I would like you to do for the council and for the public,
Yep.
is to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and why you're interested in the position of the Council of Aging and how you feel you can contribute to it.
Sure. My name is Larry Giannakis, Senior. I live on Grant Street. I live in Leominster probably almost 50 years now. I had a restaurant in Leominster for over 20 years, the Red Checker. So I had that experience. I worked at assisted living for 10 years, Sunrise, before I retired. And I feel I can help the seniors. I've been a member of the seniors since I turned 65. And I like it down there, and I just thought maybe I could do something to help them.
Yep. And you've been going down there and,
I go down there and, try to help them, try to
Yep.
get some ideas from them and see what we can do to make it better for
Yeah.
the seniors in town.
that's great.
So.
I loved the Red Checker. I miss it.
I miss it too.
That was a great place. So you, what have you done down, when you go down there, you say you help them out, what do you do?
Well, I volunteer in the kitchen sometimes to help serve. I give people rides when they need when they can't to the bank or to pick up stuff and take people to the doctor, whatever they need.
Yeah.
I just like to stay busy, so
Yeah.
that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I bet they really appreciate that, any
Yeah, and
help
it's-
that you can
they're
give
nice
to-
people down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Keeps
great.
me busy, keeps my mind busy, and so,
Good.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good plan.
yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it
All right,
if I'm elected.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to ask if Councilor Frida has any questions or comments for you?
More comments than questions. I've known Larry for years,
Yes,
and he underestimates his comment about a business. He had a thriving restaurant. It has always helped people in the city of Leominster. It wasn't just a businessman that had a restaurant, went home after. He participated in the community, been involved for a long time, and I'm very happy to support Larry because I know he's just going to do a phenomenal job. Got a great sense of humor, got a great personality. So there are a number of reasons why he should be on that board, and I'm happy to support him.
appreciate it.
Councilor Dombrowski?
Larry, it's good to see you.
You too, John.
I echo everything Council Frida said, so very, very happy to support you tonight.
Thank you.
Any other councilors have any comments? Councilor Bonanza?
I should point out that Larry hired me, I think it was 1972, to work at Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I've known Larry a long time too. And I think my first night of work there was at a Christmas party. And I won't go into details about that, but had some fond memories.
I'm old. I forget a lot of things.
Maybe it could be a chapter in your book this time. Any other councilors? Councilor Marchand?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Looking forward to it.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, Mr.
Thank you very much.
Giannakis, I've learned a lot about you in just a few minutes, and like I said, we loved the Red Checker. We used to go all the time. My boys were young, we'd go, that's where we'd go after we bought the Christmas tree every year. And lots of times in between too, but that was, it was a
Mostly
family
after
tradition.
2 o'clock.
Yeah, it was a family tradition. So thank you very much. I think you're an excellent candidate, obviously, and I'll be pleased to ask that the council approve your appointment, and we'll ask the council president to move up the appointments on the calendar, so if you wanted to stay here for the vote, you're
Sure.
welcome to do so.
Sure, I will.
All right?
Yep.
And thank you very much for your
Thank you very much.
volunteerism.
Thanks for
We're
your
gonna
time.
pause for a moment, begin the meeting by law, and then we'll recess and get back to the interviews. The meeting for this evening is now in session. Please stand and join me to salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll begin with the roll call vote, beginning with the Councilor David Cormier.
Present.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Present.
Councilor Odenger.
Present.
Councilor Bonanza.
Present.
Councilor Feckley.
Present.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Present.
Councilor Dombrowski. Councilor Frida.
Present.
All 9 members are present. Is the chairwoman of records ready to report?
I have no records this evening, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, madam. At this time, I'll have a motion for recess.
So moved.
And seconded. All those in favor? Okay,
Aye.
thank you. We'll get back to Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have our second interview of the evening, Tyler Yalian, for the rehab unit of the Office of Emergency Management. Tyler here? Tyler, you can come right in.
Good evening.
Hi, Tyler. Good evening to you, too. As I said before, I'm Gail Feckley, Chair of the Ways and Means, and the committee is Councilor Frida and Councilor Dombrowski. So we did receive a letter from the mayor respectfully requesting your appointment to the rehab unit. And we also had received a letter from Charlie Coggins, the director of the Office of Emergency Management, and I will read it into the record. I read it last meeting, but I'm going to read it for you to hear, okay? Dear Mayor Mazzarella, with this letter, I am requesting the appointment of one new volunteer to the Office of Emergency Management, Tyler Yalian. Tyler has had the opportunity to see our rehab unit in action. His father, Jeffrey, is currently a volunteer in our rehab unit. Tyler is eager and willing to help out wherever he is needed. He is looking forward to learning and giving back to his community. He has been interviewed by the OEM deputy directors and myself and was found to be worthy. A query has been run, and he does not have a court record. Thank you for consideration of this request. So we have you down tonight so that you can introduce yourself to us and the public, and we can ask you some questions. But what I would like you to do is just give me a little bit, or all of us, information about your background, why you are interested in the rehab unit of OEM, and what you feel as though you can contribute to.
Well, my name's Tyler Yalian. I'm currently a volunteer on the Harvard Fire Department Explorer program. I've been on there for a little over 4 years now. I participate in rehab efforts there, overhaul operations, vehicle extrication. I've been in Leominster about 3 years now, pretty much known as the Christmas house. I do a very large Christmas display. And I collect toys for tots.
You're busy right there, just that, because I live right on Eastern Avenue, so I go by that all the time. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
And you do most of that?
It's pretty much me and my father.
That's great. Yeah, that's a commitment. That's wonderful. So, and what did you say it was the Harvard, what?
Fire Explorer program.
Explorer program? And how did you get involved in that?
I was actually offered to gain some knowledge by one of the guys that my grandfather knew. So I joined that and, get some information. And right now I'm actually trying to join Bolton as a volunteer call firefighter.
Okay, so firefighting is in your future?
It is, absolutely.
Okay, great. Good, Tyler. All right, so I'm going to ask if Councilor Frida has any questions for you or comments.
Nope, mostly just a comment. Thank you for the offer to serve and to bring your knowledge from one area to another, and to be enthusiastic about working in Leominster.
Thank you.
Councilor Dombrowski?
Well, good luck, and thank you very much for volunteering.
Thank you.
Any other councilors? President Russia?
Some of us had a chance to meet Tyler Sunday at the Fireman's Memorial. So you serve a wicked cup of coffee. That was good.
I didn't make it, so I can't take credit.
But,
Yeah, but you served.
no, but you did a fine job.
Thank you.
And it was very, very nice to have met you then and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
With the city emergency management program. You, again, we have some humbled candidates that come down here, but you do a great job with Toys for Tots.
Thank
And
you.
that's an awesome thing. So keep up the great work, and we look
appreciate
forward to confirming you tonight.
Thank you.
Any other councilors? Councilor Arden.
Just a comment, as a member of the Boy Scouts, I understand what the Explorer program has and what it does for you, and, the fact that you're involved with a program that has such a great reputation throughout the council, I think speaks volumes for your integrity and your work ethic.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other councilors have any comments or questions for Tyler? Okay, Tyler, thank you very, very much, and never underestimate the power of coffee. So if you can pour a good cup, you're good.
You need to go to committee, you're all set on that?
I'm all set for now.
Okay, great. Okay, council's back in session. We'll begin with communications from the mayor, begin with communication 67.
C-67, relative to the appropriation of $40,000 to the Library Department expense account, same to be transferred from the Library Department salary and wages account.
Communication 67 is referred to the chairman of finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. First time on the calendar, regular course, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regular course on C-67. Madam Clerk?
C-68, relative to the appropriation of $50,000 to the Police Department overtime account, same to be transferred from the Police Department salary and wages account.
Communication 68 again is referred to the chairman of finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, regular course, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regular course. Communication 69.
C-69, relative to the appropriation of $8,000 to the Police Department capital outlay expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account.
Again, communication 69 is now referred to the chairman of finance.
Mr. President, similar circumstances, regular course, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regular course. Communication 70.
C-70, relative to the appropriation of $90,000 to the Recreation Department capital outlay expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account.
Communication 70 again referred to the chairman of finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regular course. Communication 71.
C-71, relative to the appropriation of $2,500 to the Emergency Management Agency expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account.
And communication 71 again referred to the chairman of finance.
Again, Mr. President, regular course, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regular course. We now move on to page 2, communication 72, Madam Clerk.
C-72, relative to the appropriation of $21,300 to the Emergency Management Agency salary and wages account, same to be transferred from the collective bargaining expense account.
Communication 72 is referred to the chairman of finance.
Again, first time on the calendar, regular course, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Communication 73.
C-73, relative to the appropriation of $25,609 to the city clerk salary and wages account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account.
Communication 73 again referred to the chairman of finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regular course. Communication 74.
C-74, relative to the appropriation of $10,000 to the Medicare expense account, same to be transferred from the collective bargaining expense account.
Communication 74 again referred to the chairman of finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regular course. Communication 75.
C-75, relative to the appropriation of $265,000 to the fiscal year 2019 school department expense account, same to be raised by fiscal year 2019 revenue.
Communication 75 is referred to the chairman of finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regular course. We now move on to communication 76.
C-76, relative to the appropriation of $124,444,352 to the fiscal year 2019 general fund budget, same to be raised offset by fiscal year 2019 revenue.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to take the next 3 in block?
We can do that, yes.
Okay. Madam Chair?
C-77, relative to the appropriation of $5,827,108 to the fiscal year 2019 Water Department budget, same to be raised by fiscal year 2019 water rates as authorized by Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E. C-78, relative to the appropriation of $5,471,083 to the fiscal year 2019 Sewer Department budget, same to be raised offset by fiscal year 2019 sewer rates as authorized by Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Communications 76, 77, and 78 in block referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. C-76 represents the mayor's statutory budget for fiscal year 2019. C-77 represents the water department budget for fiscal year 2019, and C-78 represents the sewer department budget for fiscal year 2019. All of these will be given regular course and will be taken up on our June 25th meeting, and I need to set a hearing for all three of those communications, C-76, C-77, C-78, on June 25th, 2018 at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council's heard the recommendation read for regular course on Communications 76, 77, and 78, with the hearing to be established on 6/25/18 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers. All those in favor of the recommendation for the hearing? Yes.
I just have a question.
Sure.
Just a procedural question, I don't know if it matters. Should we be doing these in block or separately, because they're all coming out of a different financial source? One's coming out of,
I'll ask the clerk.
well, the water
Yeah,
is
yeah.
being increased, it's coming out of the water rate
Right.
and the sewer rate, and the other is from raising the taxes. So I didn't know if we should be doing it individually. I mean, it may not
Yeah,
matter,
I don't,
but.
I don't think it would make a difference.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I think when we will start the hearings on these at 7 p.m. on the 25th, and we'll hear each one of them individually.
No, I understand
Yeah.
that, but just doing it,
That's why I wanted to be careful to suggest that all three of them were given regular course as separate communications.
Okay. All right, thank you. Again, Communications 76, 77, 78 have been given regular course with a hearing to be established for each of them on 6/25/18 p.m. in the council chambers at 7 p.m. Are there any further comments or questions on the hearing? If not, all those in favor of the hearing, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the hearing has been established. We now move on to petitions.
7218, David R. Cormier, install a streetlight on pole number 10 on Independence Drive.
Want to do these in block?
Yeah, I was gonna ask
Okay,
you
no
that, yeah,
problem on
there's no
that. Go ahead, so
objection.
we're gonna go
Thank you.
7218 through 7818 in block.
7318, David R. Cormier, install a streetlight on pole number 12 on Bicentennial Avenue. 7418, David R. Cormier, install a streetlight on pole number 4 on Flintlock Drive. 7518, David R. Cormier, install a streetlight on pole number 5 on Bicentennial Avenue. 7618, David R. Cormier, install a streetlight on pole number 2 on Drummer Lane. 7718, David R. Cormier, install a streetlight on pole number 4 on Indian Ridge Drive. 7818, David R. Cormier requests to install a streetlight on pole number 2 on Bicentennial Ave.
Mr. Chairman, you don't work for the Airport Authority, do you, by any chance?
No.
Or National Grid?
No.
Okay, good. We're gonna take 7218 through 7818 in block, refer to the Chairman of Public Safety.
Thank you very much. 72-18 through 78-18 are going to be given regular course with a referral to the DPW, the wire inspector, the planning department, the mayor, and I don't know if we want to refer these to Bob Grajewski as well. He's done all the lighting stuff. Has he been involved in lighting for the city?
I'm really not sure on that, but I think this one we usually refer to police.
Police too?
For
Okay.
police, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Those 5?
sure.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've heard the recommendation for regular course for 7218 through 7818 with referral to the DPW, wire, planning department, the mayor's office, and police. Thank you very much. We now move
Mr.
on to
President?
yes,
Just another procedural question.
go ahead, that's fine.
Do we
Are
have
we
to
going
vote
too
on?
fast tonight?
Do we have to vote on streetlights?
Well, this is first time on the,
Yeah, but do we have to vote on, I thought we could just call,
we'll find out.
The city does them now, so,
Yeah, there is a different,
yeah.
okay.
there might be, it's a great question.
I know for
The
many years
protocol may
we've
have
just
changed.
called,
Yeah, now we own them, so let's see how it plays out.
Okay.
It's a good question. Okay, thank you. We now move on to page 4. We have matters before the city council. The first area, are Ways and Means and Veterans Affairs. Let's bring up the appointments if we can, Madam Chair. We'll begin with the emergency management recommendation.
Absolutely. Okay, so we had before us tonight Tyler Yalian, who is interested in a position of a volunteer for the OEM rehab unit. We interviewed Tyler. Tyler certainly shows a level of commitment and volunteerism and work ethic that I think would be an excellent fit. He's working at the Harvard Fire Department now in a special program. He is hoping that firefighting will be his life's work, and I was very impressed with his interview, and I would indicate to my committee that I would like to approve his appointment. And I
I
will
yield
go
the floor
committee.
to the clerk, Councilor Frida.
I agree.
Third member, Councilor Dobrowski.
I agree.
Madam Chair, do you have a recommendation from committee?
I do. We have a unanimous recommendation to appoint Tyler Yalian to the rehab unit of the Office of Emergency Management.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Council heard the recommendation for confirmation on this appointee. Are there any questions or comments on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Odenger.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Dobrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
I shall be recorded yea by a vote of 9-0. The confirmation has taken place. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you.
We now move on to Mr. Giannakis Senior, Larry Giannakis Senior. What is your recommendation, Madam Chair?
My recommendation for Mr. Giannakis, after having an interview with him and getting to know him a little bit, although I've known him in my past, I didn't know that he's a perfect candidate for a position such as this. He has such a sense of community and, willingness to be of assistance in any way that he can. So I'm really very pleased at this appointment and would request that this appointment be granted by our committee, and I will go to the first
Thank
member
you.
of the
I yield the floor to Councilor Frida, the clerk.
I agree.
Councilor Dobrowski, third member.
I agree.
Madam Chair, do you have a committee report?
I do. We have a unanimous recommendation for the appointment of Larry Giannakis Senior to the Council on Aging.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Council heard the recommendation for confirmation of Mr. Giannakis to the Council on Aging. Are there any questions or comments on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Dobrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Odenger.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
I shall be recorded yea by a vote of 9-0. Confirmation has taken place. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We're now going to move back to page 4, Communication 65, under Ways and Means of Veterans Affairs. Is a chairwoman of the committee ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. C-65, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that Wendy Weeks be exempt from the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, 20B, Conflict of Interest. Ms. Weeks is currently employed by the City of Leominster as the grant administrator and will be filling the vacant seat on the Leominster Board of Health. Last week, we had before us the request that Ms. Weeks be take the seat on the Board of Health, and she did get a unanimous approval by the City Council. So just as a follow-up on this, this was on the agenda for the first time last week, so the timing was a little bit off. So what I would request was that we would approve this exemption for Ms. Weeks, and I'll go to my committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll go to the clerk, Councilor Frida. Third member, Councilor Dombrowski.
I agree.
Madam Chair, do you have a report from committee?
I do. We have a unanimous recommendation that Ms. Weeks be exempt from the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, Conflict of Interest, and that she could serve the vacant seat on the Leominster Board of Health.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Council's heard that recommendation read. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yay.
Yay. Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0. Communication 65 has been granted. Thank you. Madam Chair, Communication 66, are you ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. C-66, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the approval of the CDBG Budget Action Plan for year 44. So we have all been given the information from the mayor from last week's meeting, and then I had also requested that we have more of a breakdown, and we were supplied with that. We had the coordinator, Kristen Kelly, spoke at the public forum. She went over the line items here. The total entitlement has been increased by quite a bit, so they were able to give more money in some places, especially housing rehab. There was one change that she said she just found out about today, that the Economic Development Coordinator, who in the past was funded by CDBG, can now be funded through the city. So the year 44 action plan would need to be amended to reallocate those funds. I did on the side ask her if I would need to further time this. She said that would be problematical because we submit this plan in concurrence with the city of Fitchburg, and everything needs to be submitted, so that everything is ready to go by July 1st. She said that she would amend the plan and present it to us at the next meeting. So I feel comfortable going forward with this. We've done this before. This is nothing new. And, the money looks good and, very preferential for the city. So my recommendation would be to approve the CDBG budget action plan for year 44, and I'll go to my committee.
I yield the floor to the clerk, Councilor Frida.
I agree.
Third member, Councilor Dobrowski. Madam Chair, do you have a report for committee?
I do. We have a unanimous recommendation to approve the CDBG budget action plan for year 44.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilors heard the recommendation read on Communication 66. Are there any questions or comments on the floor? Councilor Frida?
Yeah, just a comment. Looking it over, we all know that there are many other places we could use the money as well. Unfortunately, there's not enough to go around, but we should be fortunate that we're getting any at all, because every year the government talks about eliminating it. So, I think it's down probably half of what we used to get. So, I guess we should just be glad that we have it.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other comments? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Odenger.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Dobrowski. Councilor Frida.
Yay.
I shall be recorded yea by a vote of 9-0. Communication 66 has been granted. Thank you, Madam Chair. We now move on to legal affairs, beginning with 39-18. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I represent the potential landlord of this petition, so I
Right.
just need to recuse myself.
Okay, thank you very much. Wait 1 second. Thank you. Now yield the floor to the clerk, Councilor Frida, for a recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. President. 39-18, Prime Wellness Centers grant a special permit to build a medical marijuana cultivation facility located at 1771 Lock Drive. The petitioner has requested further time, or tabling actually, looking at a number of issues that they feel they need to look at, so they have requested tabling it.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that would be my recommendation. I check with Councilor Bedanza.
Councilor Bonanza?
I'm in accord.
Okay, thank you. So, Madam Chair?
The recommendation is unanimous.
Okay, so the recommendation on 39-18, I want to be very specific in the minutes on this, is to table, and that is at the request of the petitioner. And are there any comments or questions on the floor? Councilor Bonanza?
In that vein, I want to make it clear also that the public hearing is still open on that.
Thank you very much. So that's what we have. Table at the request of the petitioner. The hearing remains open. Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation to table, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, 39-18 has been tabled. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, are you ready to report on 40-18?
I am, Mr. President. Petition 40-18, Kristen Kelly, Planning Director. Amend Article 18, Section 22-105 of the Leominster zoning ordinance to include language regarding recreational marijuana facilities. We had a public hearing tonight. There's a need for the planning board to make a decision, or at least a recommendation on one final aspect of this. The next public hearing will be presenting a final version of the entire ordinance, along with some reconciliation of the buffer zone. So at this point, the recommendation is further time. We do have a hearing scheduled continued actually to June 25th, 2018. So the recommendation, Mr. President, is further time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation read on 40-18 to give further time and to continue the hearing to 6/25/18 in the council chambers at 6:30 PM. Are there any questions or comments on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, further time has been awarded. Mr. Chairman, 41-18.
Thank you, Mr. President. Petition 4118, Kristen Kelly, Planning Director. Amend Article 11, Section 2260 of the Leominster zoning ordinance to add language requiring deep observation hole testing for stormwater infiltration / detention areas. We had the Planning Director down tonight for a public hearing along with one of the city engineers from the DPW department. This is an ordinance that's needed to make sure that these systems are designed properly and will function properly in the future. We did get a recommendation from the planning board to grant this, and they had suggested an amendment to the petition, which the DPW engineer agreed with. So initially, I would make a motion that the petition be amended to add the following sentence at the end of the petition. The deep hole testing shall be performed by a Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection certified soil evaluator. And I would ask for a second to that
I'll
motion.
second that.
Okay.
We just need to vote on the amendment.
Very good. Council, sir, the recommendation for 41-18 for an amendment. Are there any questions or comments on the floor regarding the amendment? If not, all those in favor of the amendment, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 41-18 has been amended. Does the chairman have a report?
Yes, Mr. President, the recommendation, and I'd ask you to poll my committee, the recommendation would be to grant petition 4118 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the floor to the clerk, Councilor Frida.
I agree.
Third member, Councilor Bonanza.
Yes, I agree too.
Mr. Chairman, do you have a report from committee?
Yes, a unanimous recommendation is to grant petition 41-18 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard the recommendation read to grant 41-18 as amended. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 41-18 has been granted. Mr. Chairman, 62-18, are you ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. If there's no objection, I can take 6218 and 6318 in block.
Any objection?
No objection.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Petition 6218, Mark C. Bedanza, Esquire, amend section 1377 of the Leominster Municipal Code by adding a stop sign for southwest bound traffic on Commonwealth Circle at the intersection of Exchange Street. Petition 6318, Mark C. Bedanza, Esquire, amend section 1377 of the Leominster Municipal Code by adding a stop sign for northeast bound traffic on Revolution Drive at the intersection of Exchange Street. We are still waiting for recommendations from the city solicitor on both of these petitions. I imagine they're bogged down with the marijuana work that seems to be gripping everybody, but the recommendation would be further time for 6218 and 6318.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard the recommendation read for further time for 62 and 63-18 in block. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, further time has been awarded. Mr. Chairman, 68-18, are you ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. Petition 68-18, Officer Patrick Bresnahan requests no parking signs be placed on Mount Pleasant Avenue between Short Street and Pine Street against southeast bound traffic on the even numbered side of the street. We did get a letter from Officer Patrick Bresnahan, who's the part of the Traffic Bureau at the Leominster Police Department. This letter is dated June 1st, 2018. It's addressed to the city clerk. In reference to the petition I submitted for the no parking signs on Mount Pleasant Avenue between Short Street and Pine Street, petition 6816. The reason for this request is to prohibit parking on the even-numbered side of the street, therefore making the street wider for emergency vehicles such as police, fire, and ambulance personnel to effectively respond to calls for service in that area. The police department supports this petition because of the fact that in the past, when responding to a call for service, a fire apparatus struck a motor vehicle where there were vehicles parked on both sides of the road, therefore narrowing the roadway and making it difficult for the fire apparatus to get through. Sincerely, Officer Patrick Bresnahan. My recommendation is to grant petition 6818. I'd ask you to poll my committee.
You have the floor to Councilor Frida.
I agree.
Councilor Bonanza.
I'm in favor.
Mr. Chairman.
The unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee is to grant petition 6818.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation read to grant 68-18. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? I'm surprised this wasn't done a long time ago. Those are tight roads. All those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, it is granted. Mr. Chairman, 69-18, are you ready to report?
I am. Petition 69-18, Noria Energy Corporation. Amend the existing license to store 30,000 gallons of gasoline diesel at 436 Lancaster Street. We have a hearing scheduled for June 25th, 2018. Before I give my recommendation, I know we have an approval back from the fire department. Do we have any other recommendations back?
Building inspector is in here, I think.
We have the building. Oh, yeah, he combined. Okay. And were we also awaiting the health department?
Health and fire. I think somebody's fire sent somebody out to the hearing.
Okay. And so, okay, so we're just waiting for one more recommendation. Okay. All right, we have a hearing scheduled for June 25th, 2018. The recommendation is further time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation read for further time on 69-18. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, further time has been granted to 69-18 with the hearing scheduled for June 25th in the council chambers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Thank you. Now move on to finance. We'll begin with communication 58. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. Free cash was certified for fiscal year 2017 at $9,732,293. Thus far, we have voted on appropriations totaling $8,774,119. Tonight, before us for action are additional appropriations totaling $827,129. And also on the calendar this evening for the first time were appropriations totaling $126,109. The total of all three categories voted, slated for action, and slated for action next meeting are $9,727,357, leaving a balance to be of excess in the amount of $4,936.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
With respect to the stabilization fund activity for fiscal year 2018, we began the fiscal year with $14,517,855 in the account. During the course of the fiscal year, we borrowed $4,611,690 from that account. And then recently, we appropriated $5,155,788 to the account. So our new balance in the stabilization account currently is $15,061,952.
Thank you very much. Communication 58. Are you ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. C-58, relative to the appropriation of $125,000 to the fire department overtime account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. We had a finance subcommittee meeting earlier this evening. I do have a letter from the chief that I'll read into the record, dated May 15th, 2018. Dear Mayor Mazzarella, this communication is regarding the status of the fire department public safety overtime account. The fire department started the fiscal year with $1,250,000. 2 additional appropriations during the fiscal year were approved, totaling $250,000. The balance remaining as of this date, is approximately $75,000. There are 5 weeks remaining of the fiscal year. I'm requesting an additional $125,000. Listed below is a summary of our overtime requirements, separate from normal overtime. 2 firefighters out on job-related injuries awaiting job-related disability retirement approvals. 3 firefighter vacancies due to retirement. 1 firefighter is in sick leave bank. 4 new members in training. An increased vacation backfill needed at this time. Thank you for your continued support. Should you have any questions concerns regarding any of the above, please feel free to contact this office. Sincerely, Robert A. Sidlow II, Chief of the Department. As I said, we had a finance subcommittee meeting earlier this evening. I believe Councilor David Cormier is abstaining from this one, but the finance subcommittee members are recommending unanimously to approve C-58.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation to grant communication 58, are there any comments or questions on the floor? Councilor Cormier?
No, just for the record, I do need to abstain. I have a brother on the fire department.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yay.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the communication's been, excuse me, I'm sorry, 8-0, communications have been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, order that the sum of $125,000 be appropriated to the fire department overtime account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation read to move for the order. Are there any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yay.
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 Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, the order's been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Communication 59, are you ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-59, relative to the appropriation of $5,000 to the city clerk's salary and wages account, same to be transferred from the city clerk's salary and wages account. We have a letter from our clerk, Lynn Bouchard, dated April 26, 2018, to the mayor. Dear Mayor Mazzarella, I am requesting a transfer of $5,000 to the city clerk's salary and wages account from the city clerk's salary and wages account. I will be retiring on June 29, 2018, and my replacement will begin training on June 11, 2018. These funds are currently in the city clerk's salary and wages account, and no additional appropriation is needed, as we were without an assistant city clerk for more than 2 months. Please do not hesitate to contact me with any questions. Sincerely, Lynn A. Bouchard. We had a finance subcommittee meeting earlier this evening, and it is the unanimous position of the finance subcommittee to approve C-59.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation read to grant communication 59. Are there any comments or questions on the floor?
Yeah, I
Councilor
actually have
Cormier,
a
go ahead.
question. I just picked up on something. It looks like we're transferring it from the exact same account to the names of the accounts are the same.
I noticed that.
And that can't be right. I know that it's an interdepartmental transfer, but the accounts cannot, the accounts can't be.
I spoke to the comptroller, that's what we have to do because it's creating a new position, a training position, so that's the only way you can create it is just transfer it the same way.
Okay.
Okay, well,
It's a great question.
it's not gonna, won't hurt.
We've had a couple curveballs tonight when it comes down to protocol.
Yeah, the recommendation remains the same.
Yep,
There we go.
absolutely.
That's great. Okay. Council, sir, the recommendation to grant communication 59, are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-59 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, order that the sum of $5,000 be transferred to the city clerk's salary and wages account, same to be transferred from the city clerk's salary and wages account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council's heard that recommendation read. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yay.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order's been adopted. Caitlin Huffman, welcome to Leominster. And you're gonna get paid.
Even better.
And it's the first time in the history of the city that financial report read the way that it did. We now move on to Communication 60. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President, C-60, relative to the appropriation of $40,129 to the Police Department Capital Outlay Expense Account, same to be transferred from the Excess and Deficiency Account. We have a letter from the Interim Chief of Police, Michael D. Goldman, to the Mayor. Dear Mayor Mazzarella, the Leominster Police Department requests $40,128.26 from free cash to purchase one new 2018 Ford sedan police interceptor. This cruiser would be unmarked and outfitted the same as our current traffic cruiser, though a different color. As you are well aware, the #1 complaint received by both your office and the PD is traffic. As you are also aware, traffic infractions are a serious issue in Leominster, and the unmarked cruiser we have now has been highly effective. I anticipate bidding a second permanent traffic officer for 2019 and using the car as a hot swap for dedicated traffic assignments until then. We have no other vehicle in the current fleet which we could convert for this purpose. And this is from the state bid list. And as the interim chief indicated, the vehicle as outfitted totals $4,128.26. That's the base cruiser price of $25,195. MDT with Martin, whatever that is, $7,102.26. Radio, $838, and lights and interior police equipment, $6,993. At our finance subcommittee earlier this evening, it was the unanimous recommendation of finance to grant C-60.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council heard that recommendation read. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, Communication 60 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President. Ordered that the sum of $40,129 be appropriated to the Police Department Capital Outlay Expense Account, same to be transferred from the Excess and Deficiency Account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council heard the recommendation read to move for the adoption of the order. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yea. Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order's been adopted. And, Mr. Chairman, I'm glad that you didn't share the color of the unmarked car. That was great. I noticed that didn't come out.
Gotta keep some things
That was great.
proprietary.
I was just worried about that.
Proprietary information.
I got you. Okay, we're now going to move on to Communication 61. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-61, relative to the appropriation of $37,000 to the snow and ice overtime account, same to be transferred from the Excess and Deficiency account. This is the final bill for our snow and ice overtime charges and expenses for the recent winter. Glad we're done with that. And by approving this, we'll have taken care of all of our overtime account expenses for the current winter, the past winter. Again, the Finance Committee earlier this evening recommended unanimously to approve C-61.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council heard the recommendation read to grant Communication 61. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, Communication 61 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President. Ordered that the sum of $37,000 be appropriated to the snow and ice overtime account, same to be transferred from the Excess and Deficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, council heard that favorable recommendation read. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order's been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Communication 62, are you ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-62, relative to the appropriation of $13,000 to the snow and ice expense account, same to be transferred from the Excess and Deficiency account. Similar to the prior communication, this is for the balance of expenses related to our snow and ice operations for the prior winter. We had a Finance Subcommittee meeting earlier this evening, as I indicated, and again, it was the unanimous recommendation of Finance to grant C-62.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council heard that recommendation read to grant Communication 62. Are there any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, Communication 62 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, in order that the sum of $13,000 be appropriated to the snow and ice expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation. Are there any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order's been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Communication 63, are you ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President, C-63, relative to the appropriation of $250,000 to the school department expense account, $40,000 to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account, and $210,000 from the school department prior year expense account. The mayor was before our finance subcommittee meeting earlier this evening. The explanation was this money was being afforded to the school department with the intention that it would be used to outfit or purchase Chromebooks for students. It is the unanimous recommendation of the finance subcommittee to grant C-63.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Are there any comments? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0. Communication 63 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President. In order that the sum of $250,000 be appropriated to the school department expense account, $40,000 of which will be transferred from the excess and deficiency account, and $210,000 of which will be appropriated from school department prior year expense account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Are there any comments? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order's been adopted. Mr. Chairman, Communication 64, are you ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-64, relative to the appropriation of $572,000 to the general fund accounts as listed, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. This is made up of 5 separate accounts. The proposal is fire capital outlay expenses in the amount of $163,000, highway capital outlay expenses in the amount of $232,000, municipal building capital outlay expenses in the amount of $120,000, emergency management capital outlay expenses in the amount of $35,000, and recreation department capital outlay expenses in the amount of $22,000. I'll take them one at a time. With respect to the fire department capital outlay expenses, this is a result of some public safety issues with the deck in the back of the fire department that needs to be reconstructed, and this is a partial payment toward getting that work done. In addition to that, there was also an amount, gotta find my notes. Oh, here we go. So that amount was $80,000. In addition to that, the next portion of that $163,000 was $65,000 to purchase a new deputy chief's vehicle. And the last piece was $17,499.90 to rebuild the pump on Squad 1, a reserve pumper truck, which is leaking water, and that entails the parts and labor necessary to make that repair. And together, they all totaled $163,000. With respect to the highway capital outlay expense, that is made up of $50,000 for striping roads in the city, $12,000, which is the balance necessary to purchase a new sweeper. We have previously appropriated the rest of the money in prior communications. And last but not least, $170,000 to purchase a new 6-wheel dump truck that the mayor explained is of better construction because the frame is unibody as opposed to pieces and should perform better in the long run. That takes care of the highway capital outlay expense breakdown. The municipal building, $120,000 is broken down. $100,000 to commence the engineering study and specifications to repair the city hall roof, which has been long been needed, and an additional $20,000 to repair and replace the billboard or welcome to Leominster sign out on Route 2 that the mayor explained earlier in our subcommittee meeting this evening was in disrepair and needed updating. With respect to the emergency management capital outlay expenses of $35,000, that money is necessary to purchase for the emergency management department a new pickup truck. And last but not least, the recreation department amount of $22,000 is a partial amount necessary to convert and repair some of the Doyle Field tennis courts to pickleball courts. Apparently, the project is estimated to cost $38,000 total. The Recreation Department asked for $21,331 to be added to $17,000 already in their revolving account from fees collected from tennis programs and other items under their jurisdiction. So those are a breakdown of all of the $572,000 requested to the general fund accounts. The unanimous recommendation earlier this evening of the Finance Subcommittee was to approve C-64 and all of its constituent parts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read to grant Communication 64. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0. Communication 64 is granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President. Ordered that the sum of $572,000 be appropriated to the general fund accounts as listed, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Again, I'll list those accounts. Fire capital outlay expenses, $163,000. Highway capital outlay expenses, $232,000. Municipal building capital outlay expenses, $120,000. Emergency management capital outlay expenses, $35,000. Recreation Department capital outlay expenses, $22,000. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order's been adopted. Mr. Chairman, to you and your committee, thank you for all your work. It's appreciated. We now move on to public service. Councilor Frida, the chairwoman, are you ready to report on
I am.
66-18?
66-18, Barbara Richardson et al., accept Garfield Street as an accepted way. At the last meeting, we had some discussion, and the petitioner was represented by an attorney, and I think the suggestion was made to go back to Ray Racine and to find out exactly what the issues are with the street. As it stands now, apparently they're not up to standard. I have a letter here from Ray Racine dated to the city clerk. Dear Lynn, the Leominster Department of Public Works has reviewed this request and offers the following comments. The applicant needs to submit a plan and a deed description of what is being asked to be accepted. A couple of questions need answers. Who owns Garfield Street? Do the applicants have the ability to transfer the fee or an easement? Please let us know if you have any questions. Sincerely, Ray Racine, DPW Director. I have one here as well from Peter Nile to members of the Legal Affairs Committee. I'm in receipt of a communication dated May 17th requesting my recommendation on petition 66-18 to accept Garfield Street as an accepted way. I am not in favor of adopting this petition, as Garfield Street does not meet the city's minimum requirements for a road. If you have any questions or need further information, please feel free to contact my office. And I thought we had one from planning.
No, planning's waiting for us to hear back.
They're waiting more information from us.
Because we're waiting for the city solicitor.
Right.
Once we get the city solicitor information, they want us to relay it to them.
Okay. So at this point, we don't have all the information in. So the recommendation, and I'll ask you to poll the committee,
Sure.
is for further time.
Thank you. I'll refer to Councilor Ottinger, the clerk.
I agree.
Councilor Pauline Cormier, third member.
I agree.
Madam Chair, please restate.
Okay, the recommendation on 66-18 is for further time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilors heard the recommendation read for further time on 66-18. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 9-0, further time has been awarded. Madam Chair, 67-18, are you ready to report?
I am. 67-18, Jill A. Natola. Accept Lexington Circle together with the water line easement is shown on the quote, street acceptance plan in Leominster, Massachusetts, prepared for the Sheldon Hills Realty Trust by Hannigan Engineering Incorporated, dated March 15, 2018. I don't believe we have all the recommendations in, but I do have one here from Peter Nile to the Legal Affairs Committee. I am in receipt of a communication dated May 17, 2018, requesting my recommendation on petition 67-18 to accept Lexington Circle together with the water line easement as shown on the street acceptance plan in Leominster, Massachusetts, prepared for the Sheldon Hills Realty Trust by Hannigan Engineering Incorporated. I am in favor of adopting this petition because the street meets city standards. If you have any question or need further information, please feel free to contact my office. Sincerely, Peter Nile, Building Commissioner. And I have one from the Planning Department, the Planning Board, from Kristen Kelly, Director of Planning and Development, to the clerk. RE City Council petition, 67-18. Jill Natola, accept Lexington Circle together with the water line easement as shown on the street acceptance plan in Leominster, Massachusetts, prepared for the Sheldon Hills Realty Trust by Hannigan Engineering Incorporated, dated March 15, 2018. Bouchard, at a regularly scheduled planning board meeting on May 21st, the planning board voted unanimously to recommend approval of the above referenced petition for the acceptance by the city of Lexington Circle together with the water line easement as shown on the street acceptance plan. The planning board has confirmed with Leominster DPW that the roadway has been completed to their satisfaction and as shown on the approved subdivision plan. Please contact me with any questions or concerns at 978-534-7525, extension 256. Sincerely, Kristen Kelly. That's all I have. We're waiting for the city solicitor, that's what I thought. So, the recommendation would be for further time, again.
Okay.
Although I'm pretty comfortable, but,
Yeah.
you know, I'll check with my committee, see what the feeling is.
I yield the floor to Council Ottinger.
I agree.
Council Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
Madam Chair.
Okay,
Okay.
recommendation is further time.
Okay, thank you. Councilors heard the recommendation read for further time on 67-18. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Council Bonanza.
Yeah, I don't want to be throw a monkey wrench in this, but I would like to see this move along. I mean, the only thing that Copeland and Page is going to ultimately weigh in on is whether the petitioner can give good title to the city. They're going to want to see the things that that the chairperson's already read in, which is planning's okay, DPW is okay, the road meets the local requirements. So if they have an issue with it, they're gonna bring the issue up anyway, if there's a title problem. So I don't know that they'll necessarily will get anything from them until they actually do the title anyway. So I'd like to move it along, but I mean, if the will of the council is further time, so be it, I suppose, but I'd like to see the thing move along.
Council David Cormier.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I'm not gonna vote for further time. I think, we have everything we need here, and at this point, it's up to Copeland and Page to just work with, their attorney and settle all the language. But I think our vote tonight is, I'm comfortable with it, and let them work together and record it and be done with it, so, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Council Dabrowski.
I just have a question. What's the process from here if we accept?
Copeland and Page has to assure has to confirm that the city's getting the appropriate quality of title, and then everything gets recorded, the street acceptance plan, the deed, and it's done.
There's no hearing or anything.
And so then what?
What's that?
In order of layout.
Order of layout, I think we get to it, and then you'll vote on that.
So if there's a problem, we can stop at that point.
Yeah.
So once the order of layout comes down here, if there's an issue, or for it to come down here as an order, All right. If I can just, for Councilor Dabrowski, you still have the floor.
I just had a second question.
Sure.
Now, if we accept petition 6718, and there is an issue with the title,
It won't matter. The road won't become a city street or be accepted until the deed is conveyed. So we haven't jeopardized anything.
I don't imagine there'd be extra legal fees.
Can't
for the
imagine
same
that,
thing.
we may actually save some legal fees by moving this along tonight. He's gonna give us an opinion that we're gonna pay for, and then they're gonna do the work. If we accept it, then they can move to the next phase.
That's a good point.
Yeah, okay,
All set?
no more questions.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I yield the floor back to the chairwoman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have full confidence in Joe Natola as well, and Hannigan Engineering, and I don't anticipate any problems with this, but I just get a little nervous because years ago, we accepted streets here with appurtenances and found out that those appurtenances were a pump station that cost us a lot of money because we took it with the, not realizing that that's what was included in the taking. So I'm a little nervous about not having our attorney review the paperwork, and I don't think 2 weeks is unreasonable. If we don't have information back in 2 weeks, and I'm ready to support it. But I think we asked for an attorney's opinion for a reason. And I totally support everybody that's involved with Lexington Circle. And there might be nothing to be concerned about, but I just go back to that costing us a lot of money because it wasn't caught. So that's the only reason for my recommendation.
Are you speaking as an individual counselor right now, or the chairwoman?
I'm sorry?
Are you speaking as an individual counselor or the chairwoman?
Both.
Okay, all right. May I yield the floor to your second, third member?
Sure.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you. Counselor Oettinger?
Actually, I could go either way with it, because it looks like we have enough information, but I think Counselor Frida makes a good point that there is a possibility of some exposure to this council, so I would agree with Counselor Frida.
Okay, so then it is a report. The report is for further time. Are there any further comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation for further time, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 7-2, further time has been awarded. We'll now move on to 70-18. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. 70-18, National Grid, Central Street, install one singular owned pole on Central Street, beginning at a point approximately 20 feet west of the center line of the intersection of 1155 Central Street. We had a public hearing tonight. There were no negative comments, and the recommendation would be to grant.
Thank you. Council, sir, the recommendation read to grant 70-18. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 70-18 has been granted. Thank you, Madam Chair. We now move on to 71-18. Are you ready to report?
71-18, National Grid and Verizon New England, Grant Street, install one jointly owned pole on Grant Street, beginning at a point approximately 370 feet northwest of the center line of the intersection of Central Street and continuing approximately 16 feet in the north direction. Again, we had a public hearing tonight, and there were no negative comments, and my recommendation would be to grant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Council, sir, the recommendation read to grant 71-18. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Councilor David Cormier.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do need to abstain from 71-18 because this piece of equipment is partially owned by my employer, and it's against the Code of Business Conduct to vote on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation to grant 71-18, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, 71-18 has been granted. Madam Chair, thank you very much. And your committee. We'll now move on to city property. Councilor Oettinger, the chairman. Communication 53, are you ready to report?
Yes, I am, Mr. President, thank you. C-53, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requested the property known on the assessor's map as map 302, Block 1A, and located on Jungle Road be declared surplus. My recommendation is that we continue for a further time because we're still waiting on a request for proposals for the use of the land.
Okay, thank you. Councilors heard the recommendation read for further time for communication 53. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9 to nothing? All set? 9 to nothing. Further time has been awarded to communication 53. Ways and Means, we're all set with the appointments. Thank you very much for your interviews and your recommendations. We'll go to old business very quickly. We have a report on 98 Adams Street, previous allegations raised on the May 14, 2018 meeting. Councilor Shalfo Zephyr, I asked you to report on that. If you can give a quick report, I appreciate it.
Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely. So I do have an email here dated Tuesday, May 15th, from the city clerk to the DPW chair. It says, "Hi Ray, yesterday the city council all received an individual saying that James Whitney had tied into the fire hydrants for irrigation. You also should have received the same letter. Can you let the council know if this was investigated and is it in fact true?" And we have a response from Mr. Racine dated Wednesday, May 16th, that says, "Lynn, we checked this out and is not true to what we witnessed." Raymond Racine, Director of Public Works.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We'll now move on to any other items under old business. Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Thank you. Through the chair to the finance chairman, C70 and C71, which will be on the calendar for a vote next meeting. One of them, C70 is for an appropriation of $90,000 to the Recreation Department Capital Outlay Expense Account. And we don't have any detail, we didn't have any attachment, no information. So I would ask you, through the chair to the finance chair, if you would get detail on that, please.
Yes, I noticed that too, and I had the same inquiry.
Thank you.
So I absolutely will.
Thank you. And the same question on C71 relative to the appropriation of $2,500 to the Emergency Management Agency expense account, same to be transferred from excess and deficiency. Again, we don't have any details, so I'd like some more information.
Likewise, I will follow that up as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Councilor Frida.
Just a point that I try to make every year, and try to really stress the fact, because we have people come down here when we set the tax classification in October and November, whatever it is. And there's always this rush on lower our taxes, hold the tax rate. We just need for people to understand that this is when they should be commenting. This is when we're introducing a $125 million budget for 2019. And that's where the tax classification, and that's where the taxes are determined based on the budget that we need. It's important for people to understand that if they have questions on the number, on how we're spending the money, they can get a copy of the books that we have, I'm sure, to understand where the money is going. It's not an excessive budget, but it's important for people to speak up now if they have any questions about the budget. And we try to do this every year, and it doesn't generally work. But as much information as we can get out, you get the water and the sewer department that are two separate budgets, because they are different revenues. They're from the people that are using sewer and water. It's a separate situation. So money is coming from different directions, and I just think it's important. I hope we can get the message to people to understand now's the time to question the budget if they feel that their taxes are too high. Now's the time to talk.
Thank you very much. Any other items under old business? Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Well, just to follow up on what Councilor Frida was saying, I think it's important to let people know that we begin our budget conversations on Tuesday, June 19th, because this is when the mayor's coming down to give an overview, and we will hear from the library, the police department, the fire department on Tuesday, June 19th. On Thursday, June 21st, we will hear from the Department of Public Works and the school department. And then following that, the Finance Committee will conduct its meeting and discuss the budget. So this is certainly, I think that's a really good point that Councilor Frida raised. Now is the time for the public to come down and ask questions about the budget. If you have any questions, this is the opportunity. Certainly, during these finance committee meetings about the budget. Thank you.
Any other items under old business? Okay, we'll now move on to new business. Any items under new business? Okay, community calendar, a couple things. Congratulations, first of all, to the City Hall staff here for putting on a great summer stroll this past weekend. We'd also like to congratulate the Leominster High School administration, staff, faculty, students for having a great graduation. The Firemen's Memorial Service was outstanding this year. Shane Noon did a great job. Nothing less expected. Every year it's an awesome event. And it was pretty heartfelt this year. You know, seeing all the children there was pretty special. You know, and the Leominster High School graduates going up to receive their scholarships from the association, and Angela Wallace reading the names. To many people, we feel as a community sometimes, on occasion, that we're becoming disconnected, and it's a changing community because of that disconnect. And I think Angela Wallace really hit it on the head of the nail on Sunday, you know, talking about generation after generation of family firefighters. You know, it's just absolutely amazing. So we're very thankful for participating in that with them. Just being a part of it is awesome. I had an opportunity today to spend a couple hours down Doyle Field. What an amazing job. And I had a chance to speak to a lot of the people who use it. And I had a chance to photograph it as well. So it's pretty special when you're going around photographing the benches of the dedication, thinking about the people that those names actually represent, which was pretty special. But congratulations to Wendy Weeks for getting involved with the grant, the DPW, the electrical department, the fire department, and especially Pat LaPointe and, you know, the members, Mr. Bonanza, you as well, the members of the Doyle Field Commission. What a great job down there. And there's more work to be done, but just the whole atmosphere down there was really special today. So I encourage you, if you have a couple of hours and you just want to hang out, you know, maybe catch the baseball game if we're going to be playing at home. I'm not sure yet. But there's a lot happening down Doyle Field. And also welcome our new city clerk, Caitlin Huffman, this evening. So, yeah. So it's great to have you here, you know, both of you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the floor? Okay, if not, this meeting is over. Thank you.
The Leominster City Council meeting is brought to you by the generous support of the Service Oil Company, 345R Lancaster Street, Leominster, 978-466-1922.